what really annoyed me from Portland. So Mitch got a penalty. Okay, whether it was right or wrong, what was worse, that or Pascal completing an entire lap with a front wing underneath his car completely dislodged that almost caused a horrific crash with Sam Bird? How the hell Pascal did not get penalised when the following lap you had four or five drivers all pit for new front wings? We've got to introduce a rule where if you have front wing damage, because yes, these cars, because there's such a lack of downforce, these cars can still run effectively without a front wing. If there's front wing damage, they've got to be made to pit, because Pascal should never have been allowed to have gone at top speed, with a front wing which had no connection to his car. Sam could have easily gone airborne in that. That could have been a complete identical incident to what happened to Nico Müller last year. And that was a 27G accident. That was massive.
Yep.
And this is what I mean by there's no consistency. How are you penalising Mitch when if he'd slow down, a car goes to the back of him? If he goes right, he's on the grass and odds-on spins and has cars plowing into him at high speed. If he goes to his left, there's another car there, so he's then boxed in. He didn't change his direction. He stayed straight. Whereas Pascal, knowingly, he knew he had front wing damage. You could see it. He would have felt it when driving because of the vibrations, because it was literally lodged under the car. How is he then being allowed to go at full speed with a front wing dislodged that's then gone underneath the car and then been struck at probably 160 miles an hour, 170 miles an hour by Sam Bird? Even Jean-Eric Vergne said that bits of Pascal's front wing hit him in the helmet.
Yeah.
It
was mad.
This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It was mad.
They've got to start every single time, and it's going to happen in London as well, because we saw it last year. If a front wing is broken or damaged, as we see in Formula 1, if it is structurally damaged and has the risk of falling off, if it's just an end plate, that's a different story, because that's then still structurally intact.
Got you.
If the front wing is no longer structurally intact, they've got to be given a black and orange, the meatball flag to pit.
Yeah.
But it just frustrates me, because it's just, we could have had such a big crash at a track which is so quick, the quickest on the calendar, and it is my journalist has gone off.
The thing is, right, before we start taking some calls, because we're having a great chat, and I love it, and I want to get your
It's a debate.
This
is what I came on for. Come on.
This is because we'll talk about Cassidy later, but we'll talk Wehrlein now very quickly before we go to some calls, right?
Yeah.
I agree with Porsche, though. I do agree with Porsche. We know, right, that these cars don't need a front wing, or this front wing does absolutely nothing, right?
Yeah.
So, if the FIA aren't telling me to pit, I am pitting. I'll run around with it until it pray it dislodges itself. Pray it dislodges itself, and that doesn't happen. Where it hits Sandberg and pray that doesn't happen. Cool, we got away with it, right? Cool, we got away with it. But the FIA never, ever, ever, ever raised that flag. Never said, please bring that car in, right? Because Porsche went, well, we don't need that part, and clearly they didn't need that part. We even saw the Nissan of Sasha. I know he pitted, but he had no front wing in that incident, and he was able to probably There were several drivers that didn't have front wings and were able to carry on. So they took a risk, Porsche, and that risk worked. They ended up getting a 4th place. They don't get that 4th place if they pit. So it worked, but it was not right, and the FIA, I do agree massively, need to do something about it.
It worked by putting other drivers at risk. They took the gamble and hoped that it wouldn't completely go under the car and be hit by somebody else, let alone at the second fastest point on the circuit. And this is why, because yes, you're absolutely right. The Formula E cars, and Porsche are right, the Formula E cars can run that front wing and not lose too much performance, really, only really in the high speed stuff. The problem here is, one, it makes the sport look silly.
Yep.
Okay, when and like London last year was ridiculous. You had like half the field without a front wing. It looks silly. It's a bad image for the sport. Formula One, very much the rule is that if it's just an end plate or something, is that an end plate is, for those who are unaware with the technical parts of F1, if you imagine a front wing, the end plates are the bits on the end of a plate, basically. If one of those falls off through contact or something, they're allowed to continue. However, if the front wing becomes structurally damaged, so you see it wobbling, which we saw, even Mitch Evans' front wing was wobbling quite a bit. If the front wing is structurally damaged and has the risk of falling off, then they are showing the meatball flag, the flag that's black with an orange circle in the middle. then obviously they have to pit for repairs. This has to be used more often informally because it just doesn't look good when you've got 10, 11 cars without a front wing, because it then, I can't remember who said it, it turns it into bumper cars basically.
Yeah.
And that's not a good look. We want the cars to be, you know, with all their parts still looking good, demonstrating Formula technology, rather than 10 cars and one of the guys on the podium finishing without a front wing. You know, and it puts other drivers at risk. And that's the whole thing around safety, is that, you know, Sam hit a entire front wing at 160, 170. It might have been faster than that. You know, he is so lucky that he didn't get hurt, because that could have been a horrific crash. So there's a driver safety element. Again, Porsche did a gamble and it worked. But it's just, it doesn't sit right with me. That would, Porsche, I'm not going to blame Pascal. Porsche put other drivers at risk, and you could see the damage. And, you know, because they got the championship at stake, they obviously made him continue. It's just, and because it put Pascal at risk as well. He was going so, you know, he could have
crashed.
And this is the problem with the consistency of the stewards, in that, you know, Mitch gets a 5-second penalty for something that was completely out of his control, whereas Pascal was fully in control of what happened, yet got a 4th place, I think it was, in the end in that race. So it's just, I would rather see drivers being shown the black and orange flag, having to pit for new front wings, rather than scattering debris across the circuit, which is what led to the safety car, because there was so much carbon fibre across the circuit, mainly from Pascal. And it's just the fact that, you know, Vern got and it's the he got hit on the helmet by a piece of flying debris from Pascal's car. How can that be allowed? We have seen what happened to Felipe Massa back in 2009 when he got a spring through the visor. Okay, it's got a bit more weight to it than carbon fibre, but it's just, I'm in a ranty mood.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I love it. This is what we want. Right, let's get some calls in.
I want fairness, basically. So yeah, let's see what the people feel. I just want fairness.
Let's get some calls in, and we'll
let's go.
We'll talk later.